So if you want to reduce your risk of breast cancer, a new study suggests you eat only 8 hours a day. Now, I know you are the guru in your book about how important diet and exercise and all these things are when it comes to breast health. So what is your take on this?
So it just happens that I completed a bonus chapter for the paperback of Breast, the Owner's Manual. It's coming out soon. And in that bonus chapter, I talk about creating a cancer-kicking life, and one of the strong recommendations is to fast. So this new study from UC San Diego looked at the question, does fasting, particularly 16/8, so 16 hours of not eating followed by 8 hours of food access, does that decrease the growth and promotion of breast cancer cells? So they looked at 3 different groups of mice. Some were obese, some were thin, some had actually been modified to carry a genetic mutation that predisposes them to breast cancer. They ate high-fat food, low-fat food, but the keys were this. They were all injected with breast cancer cells, and then they were divided into different groups. One had 24/7 access to food, and the other group did the 16/8 fasting, so they only ate 8 hours a day. And no matter what kind of mouse we were talking about, obese or eating fat or being fat, it didn't matter, they all did the best when they were in the fasting group, with less tumor creation from the injected cells. Wow. And then another group that they had proved the point as to why. And it turns out it has to do with insulin. So every time we eat carbohydrates and protein, you're gonna get a spike in insulin, which is the big daddy growth promoter. It runs around screaming at cells, grow, grow. So you're getting these altered, mutated cells growing into a mass and then metastasizing as a cancer. And it turns out that insulin is really only quieted by one thing, not eating. So when you fast, you finally give your cells a break. The absence of insulin gives your body a chance to do some cell rejuvenation and repair.
And I know some people are saying, you know what, I do want to be healthy, but for people who say, I don't know if I can fast for 16 hours a day, what about 12 hours a day? Do you think that would also be beneficial?
It's definitely beneficial. Those who fasted 12.5, so almost 13 hours or more, had 36% less recurrence of their cancers than those who fasted less than 13 hours. So I myself, from all my research now for this new section of the book, I practice 2 things. Now I'm doing 16/8, so I stop eating at 6 p.m. and I eat at 10 a.m. And the other thing that I'm doing twice a year, so this is brilliant, it's coming out of USC. They've had over 20 years of deep research into what's called the fasting mimicking diet. They've been looking at these metabolic pathways that lead to aging. So if you can interrupt or slow that pathway, you can increase longevity. And by doing that, how do you live longer? It's by not dying and not having cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. So how did they do this? Well, it turns out if you fast for 5 days, okay, ain't nobody gonna do a 5-day water fast. That's just torture, and we're all gonna be hangry. Okay, so what they devised was a way to eat. So you're feeling satiated and full, but your cells don't perceive food. So you get into fat burning mode and you're in a plant-based ketosis, because what you're eating from them is seed and nut bars and olives and some soup, so high mono unsaturated healthy fats, but fat doesn't stimulate insulin. So your cells are like, there's no food here, I'm still starving. You can do this twice a year, and basically they've been showing that it increases longevity and decreases aging.
Nice.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, your theory about too much insulin is not good for the body, and too much eating for a prolonged period of time, it makes sense.
It's pretty key, I think, to giving your body a break, and it just can't when, you know, the insulin kind of disappears after 4 hours, and then you're ready to eat again. So you get a snack and you get a meal and it starts all over.
Quickly, other tips to limit your risk for breast cancer while we have you.
Get to your ideal body weight and stay there forever. Exercise, I like 5 hours a week if you're gonna like chit chat while you do it, but if you're gonna be super sweaty, just 2.5 hours a week. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables, and limit exposure to meat and alcohol and dairy. And surround yourself with supportive, loving people.
Yes.
Because
We
that
love
matters.
you.
Yes, and get your breast.
Dr. Funk, you brought your A+ game today.
And get your breast imaging when it's appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Surveillance,
And,
yes. Early
and we'll have all those great tips and more on our website, thedoctorstv.com. Dr. Funk, as always, home run. Thank you for that great information.
Thank you so much, Dr. Funk.
And be sure to get a copy of Dr. Funk's book, Breast, the Owner's Manual.